100% they're not going to ask me to come be Sabo.
Why not?
But if I could be a hot dog vendor in the background when Sabo shows up and I give him a hot dog or something, you know, I think that would be cool.
Awesome.
I think they should do that for all the voice actors, just kind of like a nod to the fans as well. But I'd for sure do it, you know. But yeah, I doubt that would happen.
Yong Bosch!
Wow, that's cool. This thing's like subtitling you.
Oh yeah,
Did you see that?
It does.
It's pretty
everything
sweet.
we say. It shows
Does it
up on
get
the
me?
screen.
Does it do all the things I say? Is it correct?
It's my favorite when it's not
Bonkai.
correct.
I said Bonkai. Oh, it did it! Oh, whoa! Wow.
It's fairly accurate. Sometimes it makes mistakes.
That was pretty good. Wow.
Yeah, man. So what's up? Happy New Year. Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks.
Welcome to Animate Raleigh. Thanks for coming out. It's a pleasure to be able to sit here and talk to you and just chop it up with you for a moment. I mean, I've been a big fan of all of your work for my entire life. I don't even know where to begin. You've done so many things. You've been in TV, film, voice acting. You're a musician. Is there anything about you that you do that we don't know?
No, I think you probably know a lot about me. More than I do, actually. Yeah, those things.
Those things.
Yeah. Did you say martial arts?
You study Kung Fu, right?
That's where I started.
Right, that's what I wanted to ask
And
you
then
about.
I studied various other arts, and then Brazilian jiu-jitsu,
Very cool.
Balin walk, knife fighting, stick fighting.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm into all that stuff.
Now, I read that you got into martial arts because you were a fan of Jackie Chan and martial arts films.
Well, I was a big fan of Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee, but then I got picked on a lot.
Really?
I got bullied a lot when I was younger.
I was also bullied a lot as a
Yeah.
kid, and I was also a big fan of Jackie Chan. I had all the VHS tapes, and you know,
Did you
all
get into martial arts?
never got into martial arts. I got into breakdancing actually, and I started b-boying at 13, and I've been
Okay.
doing that
Yeah,
for
yeah.
20-something years.
That's awesome.
Yeah, dude.
Um,
But they're in the same realm. Like they're athletic.
They are. No, they are, really. I mean, it's just understanding body mechanics, you know.
For sure.
So, but yeah, I mean, I got into it because I got picked on and beat up, and so I wanted to know how to beat up people.
Right.
I wanted to be able to fight back, and I did for a while. I became quite a bit of a punk. Kind of ran around with some, some unsavory types as well as, regular people. But at some point, it all changed.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, at what point turned it around for you, where you realized, hey, this bully life is not for me?
I probably should have brought it up. It's going to a dark place. Well, I will say it's like my dad and my brother were having an argument, and I didn't know what it was, but it seemed pretty intense, and I came in there kind of like full force, and shoved my dad off of my brother, and then he walked away, and then my brother, stormed off. And then I went in and talked to my dad because I felt bad doing that.
Yeah.
Like it didn't feel right. And then he was just sitting on his bed, and he's like, I'm afraid of you.
Wow.
And that was it for me. I was like, wow, what have I become?
Yeah.
And so that was the turning point for me. And then the more I studied, and the more I learned, discipline, and how to control that, because I did start taking it to fight back.
Right.
At bullying. And so that was like my first, as soon as I started learning stuff, I was like, I'm going to go start a fight. Or I'm going to go, end a fight, actually.
Well, yeah,
But,
now that you know how to be the aggressor, you just used it to your advantage. Yeah.
So, but then I learned my ways.
Do you have a favorite Jackie Chan film?
Favorite?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to choose. There's so many good ones.
It's hard to choose because, it depends. But, I mean, Drunken Master 2.
Yes.
Is probably
now rebranded The Legend of Drunken Master. But
Yeah,
Drunken Master 2.
Yeah,
love
definitely. But there's a lot of really great ones, Project A Part 2.
Yeah.
But Drunken Master 2, I feel like had the best stuff in it,
It really did. A lot of the great choreography,
Yeah,
fight scenes.
it was excellent.
It was a fun movie. I wanted to ask you also, in terms, let's get to voice acting for a moment, and then of course we'll turn it over to the crowd. And we do have the mic there if you want to start lining up now. And I don't want to take too much of your time, but I wanted to ask you just in terms of like redubbing things, because I'm a martial arts film fan as well, and one of my favorite films is a Jet Li film called The New Legend of Shaolin, and I love the original dub, right? But then they rebranded it as Red Dragon, and they redubbed it, and it's not as, it doesn't hit the same way. You know, did you feel a pressure when you were brought in to redub Cam Clark's role in Akira?
You know what? I didn't think about it. I do remember because I watched that version, the streamlined version, and I remember, talking like this, well, it's kind of like this kind of strange, like, for me it was strange, and I kind of was like, this is silly.
Yeah.
But that was, I understood that that's what people were familiar with.
Right.
But I had a great director, but I was also, I knew that it just wouldn't feel right if I did it that way.
Right.
And so I just kind of did me angsty, it felt right to me, and thankfully I think it was good. Our script was a little bit different too, is leaning heavily on the original translation, and because I think a lot of things in that one especially, and if you don't know the culture too, you get lost. And so I felt like when we did ours, there was a lot more that I understood working on it than I did when I actually watched it. Like when he takes his buddy's bike that died and he crashes it, right, and it burns. And to me, I was like, why is he wasting and destroying a perfectly good bike?
Amazing bike, yeah.
But it's because they burn things for those people that pass in that culture, so that they have them in the afterlife. And so I was like, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And so I understood a lot more going through it that time. But yeah, I didn't really think about it, and I don't think about it a whole lot. The only time I ever really, really had to think about it was like with Dragon Ball, and Broly, because there's a much more behind that, much more drama as well. And so it's like, it's kind of a strange place. And so I really had to weigh everything I did, and that was also really difficult because it's like there's different variations of the character. There's like this version, and then there's like the new kind of, canon version. So it's like, it's kind of strange too. You have to think about that.
But I guess, like you said, having a good director and a good team behind
having a good
you.
director, a good team, good writing, all that absolutely is important. And you got to find something in anything that you do, or I do, anything that I do that I can instantly lock on and go like, I believe myself as this character. And if I believe it, then everything I do is going to sound right, because it's real for me. And so hopefully it'll be real for anyone that's watching or listening.
Well, yeah, man. I mean, we definitely love it. I watch it every holiday season. Yeah. I have it on DVD, and I just recently watched it. And it just reminds me of like how much I love your performance in it. And not negging Cam Clark's because he did a great job, but I think you both have your own.
They're both
strengths.
really cool.
They're both really great.
I didn't want it to sound like I was talking down on it, but
of course not. We love Cam Clark.
They're both really cool. Yeah.
But yeah, man. All right. So, I want to turn it over to the audience because we have a great line here. A lot of fans here to see you. And please, once again, keep it to one question per person, and we'll try to get as many as we can. I will shut the line down. I'll be the bad guy when I need to. But here we go. Hi, what's your name and what's your question?
I'm Nick, and I was wondering if you could talk about your experience with Overdrive, Operation Overdrive, the one episode that you were in.
Yeah. So that was Power Rangers. If you don't know, that was the 15th anniversary. And so they brought me back. They brought me back a couple times. I think that was the second time. I did Space, and then I did Overdrive. And it was fun. I think that was the first time I went to New Zealand ever. And so that was really cool. But then it was just kind of neat to come back. And then I was with the Retro Rangers. So it's like, I think if I remember correctly, the team had kind of lost their abilities, and then us Retro Rangers had to come in and help out. But I had a good time. Everyone was really cool. The other cast were amazing. Both the cast of Overdrive and the cast of Overdrive was really cool actually. Retro Rangers were also very cool, but I could tell that they had been through the ringer. Like they've done it. They were like seasoned professionals. It seemed like, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, it was a good time though.
Thanks for your question. All right, hi. What's
I
your name
did
and what's your
ask for
question?
my character to die in that one as well.
Did you really?
But they were not gonna let that happen, unfortunately. I tried.
Hi, my name's Catherine.
Hi, Catherine.
So I just wanted to tell you that you are really the most amazing Power Ranger in these entire Power Ranger series and a couple of movies. And I just really want to hope that you be an ultimate Power Ranger in real life and train the next Power Rangers in future series or even go beyond in the future video games and stuff. So just be the ultimate Power Ranger for the entire world to definitely not forget.
Well, thank you for saying that. Power Rangers was obviously a big part of my life. It was the first thing that I had ever done, acting-wise, if you call that acting. I didn't know what I was doing as far as acting. I just wanted to do martial arts. I learned so much on that. I had Koichi Sakamoto was the action director who eventually became executive producer. He's now in Japan shooting a bunch of Ultraman and Kamen Rider stuff. I actually owe a lot to him, and people like him, for writing cool episodes for my character. The one thing that I really do like about Power Rangers, and I don't know, it's not really the same for everyone, but they brought me in. I mean, they brought us all in, I'm sure, but they brought me in, and they're like, "So tell us about you." And I was, and I still am, just kind of a shy, quiet person. And so they basically wrote that character after me. They're like, "What else? Did you get bullied and picked on? Okay, we're going to add that to your character." So there's a lot of just like who I am, sort of like ingrained or planted into that character. So it felt, I mean, it was cool. It was fun to be a part of. And I don't know that if they're actually going to be continuing. From what I heard is that they're done and they're going to wait a few years and maybe reboot or whatever. But I owe a lot to the fans for supporting me in that show. And so thank you very much for watching. Thank you.
Go Power Rangers!
It's morphin' time! Awesome. Thank you for your question. Hi, step on up. What's your name and what's your question?
My name is Charlie, and curious about you, Narukami, because I know he's a pretty silent protagonist, and you voiced him. I'm wondering if maybe, did any of your personality, or do you have any specific, things that you implemented into that character that we wouldn't really know about because he is silent as per Atlas?
I missed that. Which character?
Oh, you, Narukami.
Oh, Narukami.
Yes.
Well, actually, when I worked on that, Persona 4, first off, I thought when I got cast as Adachi. And then I saw, oh, it's Persona 4, and I'd never even heard of Persona 1, 2, or 3. And I'm like, well, nobody's gonna, play this game. And so I got it. I went in there, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm voicing this character, Adachi, and I don't want to spoil it, but it's a pretty cool character and has an interesting arc. He's the antagonist, but it's been a while, guys. You should have already played it, but it is really cool, and it was great to play him, But it wasn't until like I don't know however many sessions I had with Adachi, but then towards the end of me wrapping up the character, I think it was like the last 30 or 45 minutes. They're like, all right, so it looks like you're going to finish up early, but then we're going to also have you do the protagonist. So I didn't even know that I was going to voice Narukami. And so I actually started to panic when they told me that because I didn't save any space for him. I kind of used I used my full range really. And usually you kind of leave space. And then I was like, oh gosh, what does he sound like? And it's like, tone is similar. And I'm like, was it the same actor? And they're like, no. And so I was like, okay. And they're like, don't worry though, it's a lot of call outs and fight noises and things like that and reactions. I was like, oh, okay, so I'll just gruff him up and put him down here somewhere. So that's what I did. until there's another game and he talked more, until there's an anime, and I'm like, oh gosh, what do I do? But yeah, so then it wasn't really until a little bit later where I really had to focus on Narukami, and make him, because it was a lot of call outs, and I could keep him in a certain space. But the anime is a bit different. The anime, you get to see a kind of a different side to him, which is it was a lot of fun too. But yeah, so actually, I just didn't think about it because I didn't know I was going to be voicing. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for your question. Hi, what's your name and what's your question?
Hey, my name's Nikki, and just because this is one thing I've been wondering about. What did it feel like for you when you were able to actually come back and voice Vash again in Trigun Stampede?
What did it feel like? Well, first off, I was excited when I heard the rumors. And I was like, if this is true, that is so awesome. I'm super excited. Because first off, it's the first voice acting job for me. It's the first anime that I worked on. I love the character. I love the series. And so I was really excited that there was a chance of it coming back. But then later I heard all new voice cast. And I was like, oh no, I'm not going to get to do it. And then it seemed like very late in the game. Like I thought for sure I wasn't going to be brought back. Because I think it actually started coming out. The sub at least, and I was like, oh man, I'm definitely not in it. But then I got like a call, and then I was like, oh, I get to be in it, and then I'd gone through the original series. I'm like, all right, I had no idea what the new one was going to be, like where it was taking place, it was coming after or before or what, I knew that it was kind of like a sort of a reimagining, and so, but I wanted to watch the original so I knew where the voice was. And then when I got in there, and even the director, they didn't give him all the episodes, so he didn't even know the complete arc. Like he knew, I think, 5 episodes ahead. And so he could only fill me in that much. But the script was well written, the translation, first off, and so there wasn't a whole lot of changes there. And I had a great team again, great director. But this one was very different. It was much more serious. I think it leaned more on the manga, and but it was really cool. I like both of them equally, but they're very different from each other. And this one, I kind of leaned into it. How do I put it? Playing it more theatrical, a little more real, and like the original is kind of over the top and comical at times, it's a bit goofy and silly, which was a lot of fun. But this one kind of sit in a kind of a real place, So I had to keep the same character, but I had to have him a little more vulnerable at all times, I guess, so that when things happen, the emotional level for you as an audience, I think it would read better if I was like a little too, because I wanted to lean more on the original, but I couldn't because it wasn't in there. There's only a few times when he was like slightly over the top, but even then it wasn't way over the top, and so really my approach was like, I think until I really understood where it was going, and I didn't really know until the very end. I just kind of was leaning into the moment, like what is happening in this moment. Let me just make it feel as real as possible. As long as my emotions are like, I guess, on the edge, then it doesn't make sense. Sorry, that's my mind, the way I think of it. Like it has to be as real as possible. So if I feel it, I guess, from my perspective, if I feel like I'm this character in this moment right now, like I'm hurting, and it did actually, because it's his conflict with his brother, but him fighting, like I don't want to ruin the end, but like him and his brother, that whole bit, and I just lost my brother, not too long ago, and so in that moment was very real for me. But yeah, so I was very excited to be back, and it was moving for me, yeah, and I'm excited for the rest of it.
Well, thank you, and looking forward to season 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a question on on your style of voice acting. Do you prefer to know the source material in advance, or do you like to get it as it unfolds?
I mean, either way is okay. However, I do kind of like to know where it's going to end up, because then I have a target to aim for, you know, and then I can go, all right, so I can't go too far this way, or I can't go too far that way, and I can kind of guide it in a certain place. Or if I need to fool the audience into thinking this thing, and then, oh, but he's really going to be this thing, you know. So I do like to know where it ends, at least, you know.
'Cause I know there's a preference. Some people like to know in
Yeah,
advance,
some
but
people just like to, yeah.
find out as it goes
And
along.
either way is great. If you have a great director, then you're going to be fine either way. Like Code Geass, I didn't know anything on that one, and our director didn't want us to know, and it was like, you're going to experience it, and it's going to be it's going to be
Feel the
raw, and it's going to be
emotions in the
yeah.
moment.
He wanted it right then and there, like this is, and then kind of guided us to the place where it needed to be. You know, if it wasn't, you know, yeah. So it's different. Either way is fine. My preference is knowing, kind of, yeah.
Cool, thank you.
I like a cheat sheet if I can.
All right. Hey, what's your name? What's your question?
Hey, my name is Raul. It's a pleasure to meet you. My question is, I believe that you played the voice actor, or you were the voice actor for Nero from Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
What was your favorite moment voice acting that character?
Well, I did more than just voice act that character. So that one was the first time, like I went to Japan to do the motion capture. So I did, you know, we got to do fight scenes and everything, and they captured, you know, my movements as well as my face and my voice. So there was a lot more of me in that character. And the other thing, the really cool thing about that is it was a script. So usually, like if I'm dubbing an anime, I don't know the ending. I also, like, it's already animated, you know, in an anime. So then I'm doing whatever the original actor did, you know, basically, right? And so I have to go, well, if they animated him crying, then I've got to cry, right? Maybe that's not what I would have done in that scene. But I have to do whatever that is and make it work. Whereas with DMC, it was a script. And so I got to make those choices. And I was like, oh, you know what? I want to scream and yell. I want to hit the ground or whatever, and I want to throw this thing, or I want to walk this way or move this way. And there was a lot of freedom in that, you know, and there's like really no limitation other than what's happening within the scene. And even then, it was like, especially in 5, they just, like, I'd changed over 90% of my lines, or at least adjusted them to make them feel right or sound right from my perspective. Like, I'm like, I don't think the character would have said it like this. And they were completely open to that too. But yeah, that one, I mean, every bit of it was really cool. But I think probably my favorite part was just being able to, first off, go to Japan to work on something. Because if you haven't been to Japan, it's just like the anime. They have giant robots. They got all. I remember the first time I went there, and I kind of like, I had the hotel room, or it was an apartment actually, and I opened up and I went out to the balcony, and I was just like looking at the city at night, and it was amazing. And then in front of me, there's this building, and I saw this car pull up, and it goes into this. It's like a circle thing, right? And it pulls into the circle, and then the circle starts spinning like. And I was like, what's happening? And then this gate opens up, like almost like a garage thing. It was like, and the car reversed into this thing. And then I saw inside there like these, kind of like a honeycomb chamber, like a revolver, right? And it was like, it went in there, and it was like, and I was like, what is going on in that building? And then the gate closed, and I'm like, that whole building is a robot? Like, what is that? Like, there's like, it didn't make, I mean, it was amazing for me. And then I saw so many things back then that I was like, what? Like, even just on the train or whatever, I saw people with they had like what we have now, where they could watch video, but this was when you didn't have video on your phones. But they are like, you can watch stuff on your phone. They were so far advanced. And I was like, how in the world did they do this, and we aren't doing this yet? But there's so many really cool things about it. So anyway, so I think just going to Japan was one of the highlights. But great experience for me overall.
Amazing job. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I want a part 6.
All right, thanks for your question. And hi, what's your name and what's your question?
My name is Zephyrin. So about 5 or so years ago, there was a YouTuber named Retro Rhino, I think
Yeah.
it was, and he had got you on to do a fan project of the Thousand Year Blood War before the Thousand Year Blood War was a thing.
Yeah.
So I just want to know, like, what was your experience, like, planning to do that and then getting the call that you were actually doing an official one?
Well, first off, I was bummed that the series ended. You know, and ended where it did. I was like, what's going on? This is it? Because I knew the manga continued. And so I was bummed about that. And years had gone by, and there's even a petition out, you know, that I signed it, and I even posted about it. But someone actually came to me at a convention and showed me Retro Rhino was like animating Thousand Year Blood War. And I hear this all the time. I'm like, well, let me see what he's done. Because, you know, sometimes I get it and be like, all right, yeah, that's not going to be, you know, there's no way I'm going to voice on something that isn't actual animation. But then I saw it and I was like, this guy's actually spent a lot of time working on it. And it looked good, like really good. Pulling pages straight from the manga and animating, you know. And then I just reached out to him. I was like, hey, man, who's voicing Ichigo? Do you need Ichigo? And then they had somebody else that was going to do Ichigo. And I was like, well, I don't want to take anybody's place, you know. And the other guy was like, no, take it.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's their reaction when they
Right.
get a message
no,
from Johnny
he was like,
Yong
no,
Bosch?
please do it. And so I was excited to kind of do it. But then it was like, and also because I thought that we were never going to get to it. I was like, I might as well, you know. And, you know, I'll just do it for free, you know, because then at least the fans will get to see that, you know, and hear it. So I was really excited about it. And he worked hard on that. And we even started working on the second episode. But then it was kind of during the second episode that the announcement came that it was coming back. And then it was like, oh, I definitely can't say I'm doing this now. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for sure, like I was happy to do it. And 'cause I did miss the character, and so I'm so glad that he's back.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, hi, step on up. What's your name and what's your question?
Hi there, my name is Avery. Thank you for coming and for just everything. I've been a fan just for a while, but my favorite anime of all time is Durarara. Could you talk a little bit about that and how you view the character, if he's hero, villain, something else, as I love him so much?
Yeah, Isaiah is something else. Somewhere in the middle. He's the kind, I don't know if you have a brother or sister, but you know, sometimes when you have a brother or sister and when you're younger, you kind of tease each other and you manipulate each other and you kind of do things just to see how they would react. That's who he is. Like he just wants to mess things up a little bit just to see the drama that plays out. And so he's a really interesting character, and it's just super fun to play. And the relationship between him and Shizuo was really interesting. And I actually want more of that. Like that's another one where I'm like, oh man, is that it? Is there more? Because I heard that there is another manga that maybe goes into it a little more, or their characters at least. And I would love to see that for sure. Super fun to play. Yeah.
I just felt so honored that we even got a continuation at all.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Hi, what's your name? What's your question?
Hello, I'm Meg. I'm an old Trigun fan from back in the day, sneaking downstairs to watch it on Adult Swim when I was supposed to be sleeping. I wanted to know what you're looking forward to in the upcoming season of Trigun Stampede, like a moment for Vash, whether from Trigun Maximum or maybe a moment you want to bring back from '98.
Well, I definitely would. I would not mind if they went into some silliness.
Yeah.
I would not mind that. I would actually be very happy if they did go a little bit in that direction, a little more in the next season. I don't know what they're going to do. There are also other characters that we know are going to be showing up, you know? The thing with Stampede is like, you're kind of experiencing it and you're watching, especially if you watch the classic series and you're kind of like judging it based on that. But if you can go into it and just watch it as it is, once you get to that last episode and you wrap up that last episode, then you realize the vision of this one, and then it's like, okay, then that's where you can actually then respect it and go like, I see what they're doing, and this is great. It's a good idea. But I am looking forward to whatever they do, really, because I loved what they did, and the ending of that really is my favorite.
Oh, yeah, Vash's last monologue being directly pulled from Trigun Maximum was
Yeah.
amazing to see. at the end of the
They're
series.
doing really cool things, and the tricky thing is that they're trying to borrow from the manga, but also like use a little of the ideas that are from the original because they know they're fans of that, but they are definitely leaning more on the manga. I don't know. I'm just excited to be back and doing it,
Oh,
and I hope there's more than a second season.
I do know the director said they have enough stuff for 5 seasons.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I would love that.
Yeah, me too.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. I can't wait. Yeah, I would love to see Love and Peace in there somewhere. If not, I'm sneaking it in there.
Oh, please do.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I snuck in donuts in the first season.
Yes, thank you.
When the original said pizza boxes, I was like, oh, we're doing donuts.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And a cat. We need to see a cat somewhere in there, right? We need to see that cat run around. Nice cosplay.
Thank you.
By the way, yours too. Did you make that? That's great.
My name is Dylan, and my question is, what is your favorite moment or a line from a character that you voiced that you usually always look back on, whether it be funny or just cool or whatever?
Favorite? Funniest, cool, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Gosh, I don't know. You kind of. It's weird because like I say Bankai so often that it used to be like, wow, this is fun, and then now it's just like, oh, it's just a thing I say all the time. It's kind of like it's morphin' time or whatever, you know. The catchphrases kind of get lost in that. Let me something weird. Something weird is probably one that you've never seen. Anyone see Mars Daybreak? You saw it? You two saw it? Okay, so. Yeah, so it was like a mech show, but it was like underwater, like a water world kind of a thing. And I remember, so the mech was they had like the engine or whatever was it was a sphere, but they called it the balls unit. And as soon as I saw that in the script, I was like, wait, it's called a balls unit? It's like, is there not anything better? And they're like, no, that's what they want. And I was like, really? And it's like, it doesn't sound right to, I think, a lot of people. And they're like, well, that's what it is. And then, and so there are like times when I would say, like, my balls unit isn't working properly, And then it was like a perfect opportunity for people like Steve Bloom to be like, oh, yeah, they're sensitive, And so there's just a lot of that going on in there, and it's just kind of one of those things. Whereas the translation, I prefer the translation to be as close to the original as possible. Let's not add our own thing, but let's make it as close as possible so that we honor the animation. Of course, we have to change it to make it fit the flaps or whatever, or to make sense in translation. But sometimes there's this where it's like, come on now. Every time they hear balls unit, half the audience is going to be giggling, So, yeah, so that would be one that was kind of weird, I guess.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, thank you so much. Hi, what's your name and what's your question?
Some of you may know me as Minion-kun on social media. And what was your favorite moment or a line that you voiced as Koizumi from The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya?
Oh, gosh. Well, I don't have I don't know, actually, because he said a lot. He talked a lot. Like, he didn't have any catchphrases. It was mostly like paragraphs of stuff he would say. So none of that, I don't have any of that committed to memory. I also dump the hard drive after I'm done with a series. So there's certain things that will stick, but most things are gone. I have to make room for whatever next thing. It doesn't make sense to you guys, maybe, but it makes sense to me. My brain can only handle so much. I don't know. For him, for sure, there's not a catchphrase that I said over and over that I can recall. So I unfortunately don't have a specific line because it was paragraphs of stuff. Sorry. He was an Esper. I had fun. I will tell you a story about that, though. There's the Endless Eight. You remember that?
I remember the Endless
So
Eight.
the Endless Eight, there's like it's kind of like where they kind of they would relive a certain time period, right? And so the Endless Eight was episodes that were the exact same, but only slightly different. But it was the same thing, you know. I think they did it in the manga too, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's like,
No, I haven't
wait,
read the manga yet.
yeah, it's like the same exact episode 8 times or whatever it was, right? It's just kind of ridiculous. And so I thought, well, if it's like alternate universes, like I pitched the idea of like, what if I voiced one of the female characters? You know, what if I did it like an accent this time? And English side band, I was like, that's a great idea. Yeah, okay, let's. And then they sent it off, and then came across somebody's desk in Japan, and they're like, no. Yeah, so I do remember that, and that being like, well, they should have done something with that, because, you know, I do remember people being like, what the heck? Why am I watching this 8 times slightly different? You know. I do remember that, but there were paragraphs. Sorry, I don't remember any specific lines, unfortunately.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. Just to be the bearer of bad news, we're not running low on time, but we do have a limited amount left, so we probably won't get to all the questions here. Let's try to rapid fire as many as we can, and then if you don't get a chance to ask your question, of course, you can visit Johnny at his table. All right. Hi, what's your name and what's your question?
Oh, hey, my name's Davis, and it's really nice meeting you. And my question was, is there any like really emotional or like scenes that really resonated with you when you played Ichigo or when you played Lelouch?
Lelouch, all throughout, there's so many different moments in there, and I'm sure that you could, you know, as you watch it, you can, you know, see those moments and feel those moments. I hope you can, otherwise I failed my job. The very last thing he says, you know, again, I don't want to spoil it, but you guys should have seen it already. But the very last episode has some really cool, you know, heartfelt moments that you definitely, when I got there, I didn't even realize that was going to happen. I knew that something like that was possibly going to happen, but I didn't know it was going to happen. It was going to be that way, and those are going to be the words that he says. I'm hinting at a lot here, you guys. But that was a great moment. For Ichigo, I remember is earlier on, I don't remember which episode, but there was like he's talking about his mom, and he's thinking about his mom, and there's a moment when he's walking through like a park or something, and I remember there's like this heartfelt moment that he missed his mom and he cared so much for his mom, and I connected to that instantly, and then I was like, I believe this character as a real character, and that's when I was like, I think I can do this. It's always in a show, you try to find the things that you can go like, okay, that's my direct line to the character. And that was the moment. And I don't really remember the exact episode or what was really even being said, but it was that moment that I was like, I believe who this character is. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Sure. I'll try to be faster. I only got like, is that 5 minutes? Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
All right. Hey, what's your name and what's your question?
Hi, my name is Carla. My question is on the Bleach 1,000-Year Blood War. Which revelation shocked you the most? Spoiler alerts, guys.
Spoilers. Episode 7 was an intense episode. There was a lot going on. You should watch it. Get to it if you haven't seen it. I know the original series, you may feel older and dated because of the animation style, but once you get through it and you get to the characters and you understand the characters and you get to 1,000-Year, like once that starts and people start dropping, you're like, I didn't expect that, you know? So that, yeah.
Thank
in
you.
general. But episode 7 was really, that was when I was locked in for sure. I was like, oh, this is good. And the animation style is awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm going to try to speed up, you guys.
Well, this is actually going to be our final question right here. But listen, if you didn't get a chance to ask a question, okay, at the end of this panel, we're going to take a selfie with everybody here, a stage selfie, and I want everybody to stay in line. We're going to have you right here in the front, and that stage selfie is going to be available for purchase after this panel right outside for $20. So there you go. All right, hi.
Hi, my name is CJ, and I guess the big question I've had is we've seen a lot of the live action animes being done recently. If you had any chance to be a part of either remake of a previous one or bringing forth one like Sabo, perhaps, for the live-action One Piece, since that seems to be the most successful of the live actions.
I'm sorry that we're not going to be able to get to your questions, but if you want to come back to the table, I can answer your questions there. You just come through and just say, I just had a question. Then you know,
I apologize. It's always a time issue, but
it's all good.
Again,
it's understandable.
Before we leave, I wanted to. That was not my voice.
What'd you do?
I don't know what that was.
Broke it.
But before we leave, first and foremost, I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for coming out here to Animate Raleigh. One more time, big round of applause for Johnny Yong Bosch. But also, it's your birthday. I want to wish you a very happy birthday. I don't know if you're in for celebrations, but we got a cake for you.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So if we can all sing happy birthday on the count of 3, it'll be amazing. Are you guys ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Louder. Happy birthday to you. Louder. Happy birthday, dear Johnny. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Thank you, guys.
Make a wish.
I don't think you have enough candles on there.
It's okay. We'll keep it a secret.
All right, thank you.
One more time. Happy birthday. Big round of applause for Johnny Yong Bosch.